Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Today's word will be coming from out of First Peter chapter number 4, verse number 1. As First Peter chapter 4, verse 1, it says, "For as much then as Christ has suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourself likewise with the same mind, for he had suffered in the flesh, had ceased from sin." Today I want to talk about living in the future tense. Living in the future tense. Of course, we've been dealing with journey unto triumphant living in our Bible class table talk as we resume today. And often remember, we know triumph simply means to be victorious, to be more than a conqueror because of what Christ did at Calvary. He conquered sin and death on our behalf. Therefore, he calls us to triumph and make manifest his saving knowledge in every place. But if we're going to live, if we're going to be victorious, we have to learn how to live in the future tense. Of course, living a Christian life in this sinful world can be very tough because temptations bombard us through our friend, through social media, and even through our own lust desire. And then there's a problem of being misunderstood by unbelievers, by ungodly, and often respond by it often result into one being persecuted or ridiculed. And of course, so the secret of living this victorious life and a triumphant life, we have to learn how to live, of course, in the future tense. Of course, in verse 1 through 6 is what we're going to be looking at today or tonight. The first thing we're going to deal with is the attitude God would want us to do in verse number 1. Verse number 2, he's going to deal with the ambitious, how we ought to put aside lustful desires and lasciviousness and unbridled things that are not godly. And verse 3 and 4 talks about the right action. And then verse 5 and 6 about the right anticipation. Verse 1, he said, "For as much as Christ suffered for us in the flesh," Christ suffered, of course, and he didn't suffer for himself, but notice he suffered for us. And sometimes we're going to go through some suffering, but the suffering that we go through cannot be compared to the glory that is await us. And our suffering, we suffer in order to be able to win somebody else over under Christ. He said, therefore, in our suffering, we have to arm ourselves in the flesh. We have to arm ourselves that we be like-minded. Of course, when he's speaking about arming ourselves, we have to literally think about the military and all of the might and all of the arsenals and everything that the military have. It's a symbol of strength. And as believers, we have to strengthen ourselves. In the sight in which he wants us to strengthen ourselves, he says we have to be in the same mind. And that's the mind of Christ. Let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Jesus. Be renewed by the spirit of your mind. Listen, join us tonight for this discussion, of course, living in the future tense. Of course, it's going to be an awesome and great lesson on tonight. As always, I pray that God will bless you and your family real good. Today will be better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be better than today. Why? Because I will strive to live better, be better, and do better. I am happy, I am healthy, and I am holy. Living in the future tense.